Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to share my language learning journey and how planners have helped me stick with learning languages, specifically Italian language. So I wanted to come up with this video because when I was talking about my version 1 of my 2026 planner plans, someone in the comments asked me about my language learning journal, and I thought it would be a good video topic to talk about the journey itself, because what you're seeing here is just a part of my setup, if you want to call it a setup, of how I study the language and how I try to make time for it, and how planners have helped me with the journey of making an attempt to be conversational in Italian, because that is my objective at the moment. What you're seeing here in the table are just some of the books that I use and the planners that are actually helping me with the process and everything. So if you're interested in this content, please cozy up. It's going to be hopefully not a long video, but I will try to walk you through my process if you're interested to also go through the process or have some ideas on how to use your planners for language learning or any other learning subjects that you would want to take up. So let's get started. So just a bit of a story time. I have been studying Italian for a while now. I started in March. I have lessons with my tutor on weekends, and during the week I try to self-study. But since I have a full-time job, it can be really challenging. So there are some days where I am tired after work, or my mental health isn't that great, or on those days studying feels almost impossible. But Italian is the one language that keeps me motivated and happy. So even when it's hard, I always come back to it. And honestly, planners are one of the main reasons that I'm still going through the journey of learning Italian. So just wanted to share with you some of the things that I use in learning the language. So I mentioned that these are at least just some of the physical materials that I use to help me with the language learning. This particular book is my textbook with my tutor, and this is the one that we go through every week. And these three are just some of the things that I purchased for myself to try to learn the language at my own time, and also to review what we discuss every week in this main textbook. So pretty much the topics in these three other grammar books are the same as the one here in Nuovo Espresso. But I like to practice some grammar drills, and having different or like pretty much very similar grammar books is helping me to practice and review some of the lessons that we take up every week. So these are basically just the same. And I just wanted to make sure that I'm able to practice whenever I can. And because if you are learning European languages or using a similar book like this, because this book is all in Italian, even the way the grammar is explained, it's all in Italian. So sometimes when I struggle to understand the directions or instructions, I tend to go to these grammar books that are in English, that are explained in English. So it helps me kind of like build on what we discuss every week. So that is what I'm trying to do. As I mentioned, these are just physical learning materials that I have. I also make use of podcasts, YouTube channels that I subscribe to. And I also have subscribed to an online studying material from Italian with Davide. So that one is perpetually free for me to access because I'm subscribed to it, so I can access it anytime. So again, this is just another material that I try to build on every week after class so that I can continue to practice, and also try to vary up the materials that I consume for passive and active learning, so that I try to integrate the language in my daily life, because I'm based here in Taiwan and people here speak Mandarin. So I'm not as exposed to the language that I'm trying to learn. So if you are studying languages and you're not in the country of of where that language is spoken, it's a little bit more difficult. So you have to develop a habit to integrate the language in your daily life. So I feel like for me, it's twice as hard to study a language where that language is not spoken where I'm based right now. But I'm really trying my best because my husband is Italian. So I try as much as possible to practice conversation as well. And of course, with my tutor who is Italian. So I try to practice conversation. Yeah. So for those of you who are studying languages, I'm sure you understand the difficulty of that part of trying to integrate the language in your daily life. So that is the background of how I try to learn the language. And we're going to go next to the studying tools that I use to help me with this journey. So these are the notebooks and planners that I have been using thus far. First is this Midori planner. It's an old one. I have talked about this in my previous Techo Kaigis. I got it as a freebie from one of my local stationery stores because this is an outdated planner. I don't even know what model or like what is the name of this type of Midori planner, but it's dated 2019. So I just use it as a regular notebook, but it is a planner and it has its calendar section, its yearly overview, monthlies and weeklies, but I just use it as a regular notebook. So if you have had the chance to take a look at my Techo Kaigi videos of this year, I talked about how I'm using this planner, this outdated planner as a notebook. So it's really just what I use whenever I have my weekly lessons with my tutor. And there's nothing really special that I use some of the sections for, aside from the yearly tracker. As what I use it is a study tracker. So I mark the days that I am studying. I have yet to update this one because I rarely go back to like mark the days. But since I am also in other planners, I will talk about this in a while. It's easy for me to backtrack and like mark the days where I did study because I do keep track of the days that I do study in some of these planners. So really just this tracker that I use as like marking the days when I study. The monthlies, I don't even use them as like anything monthly, or I didn't even redate them. I still haven't figured out how to make use of it. But basically the weekly sections, I just use it. I treat it as a regular notebook. So I just dump all my notes here during lessons and at times when I do my self-study. So this Midori planner is used to jot down notes, as I mentioned, during my tutor lessons. Sometimes I'd add some self-study notes as well. It's not structured, but it's exactly what I needed to start because I definitely need something to start off when I signed up for lessons in the institute here to have a tutor. So I treated this as a safe place to write down what I was learning. And looking back at it right now, those messy notes are proof that I started somewhere, and I love that. The Midori planner taught me that simply showing up matters, and even if it's just writing one new word, for me, it still counts. So I still use this. I still have my lessons, so I would still use this notebook planner as a dumping ground for all of the things that we discussed during our lessons. So when I was using this old planner, I was craving for something else because I do have kept a habit sort of studying because as I mentioned, I do have weekend lessons with my tutor, and on the weekdays I try to self-study, but I was really craving for a bit more structure because if I don't put some structure in my studying, I'm just not gonna have that motivation to study, or I'm probably gonna forget about it, or I'm just going to sweep it under a rug and just wait for the next weekend wherein I'm going to have that lesson with my tutor. But the structure is very important to me to make sense out of all of the materials that I have. So as I mentioned, I have books, I have some online resources. I wanted to have a semblance of order with all of these references that I have so that I can be more mindful of whatever time that I have for self-study. So that's when I tried the Kokuyo Study Planner in the 2-week format. So this study planner is available in different formats. They have a daily, weekly, and 2-week planner notebook, and the one that I chose is 2 weeks. The reason why I chose 2 weeks is because the layout here showing you a blank spread. So this spread spans 2 weeks. And for me, it's something that's more simple. I know that it could be an oxymoron for some people that looking at the layout, it seems super structured, and it is structured. But for me, I just want to see a zoomed out look of my week or my 2 weeks so that I can like see everything at a glance and see my progress at a glance. When I also saw the other formats of the study planner, like the daily and the weekly, it's a lot more structured than this one. So I was a little bit intimidated by those two. So I thought the 2-week study planner would be more appropriate for what I need, because I just initially just wanted to try out the layout and see if it's going to help me. And it did. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of this. It's like a booklet. It's very thin and very slim, even if it's in an A5 footprint, but it's super light and it's easy to carry. And that's what I love about this study planner. But the layout is like what I mentioned. A spread spans 2 weeks. So the first week is on the left side and the second week is on the right side. And there are no dates to this layout. So you're free to map out your entire 2 weeks, or if you want to do like every other day kind of studying, you can do that. So here in the example, it's all in Japanese, but I had it translated for, it's easy to follow basically. Here on the left-hand column, you can just write the topics that you are studying, and you can note, like, for example, if you're using books, you can actually map out like what pages that you want to study or you want to include in your study plan. And the rest of here, the little spaces here, you could write the dates of the week, and it has like a small section for time. And then these are just free boxes that you can put like the pages that you have studied for that day and stuff like that. So I'm just going to show you a spread that I did, my most successful one. And I was actually just using pencil here, mechanical pencil, because I don't want to make this planner really messy to the point that I don't understand what I actually put here. So I used pencil so that if ever there's a need for me to move things around, that will be easy and it will still be legible for me to take a look at. So I hope that this is getting picked up by the camera, but basically this is how I structured like the first 2 weeks that I tried to use this planner. So here at the title, I set out the goal, or set out like my plan for the 2 weeks, which is to study the regular verbs. And the goal is to master these common present tense verbs. So these are the goals, or the goal that I set out for myself. And I wrote the dates for the entire 2 weeks. And here on this column, I listed down the pages or the sections of my grammar books that I wanted to study, and if I am making use of some online resources, I also took note of that. Here I specified the page numbers of the books that I wanted to study, and I also specified which sections of my online video course that I wanted to study for that 2 weeks. So I tried to balance it with my online resources, some passive and active learning, and also to make sure that I am reviewing the lessons from my weekly tutorials with my teacher. And then once I go through the entire week every day, I would take note of what did I do that day. For example, on June 10, I actually accomplished some of the grammar drills from this book book, the subject of Che and Chisono, and I mapped it out here that for the 2 weeks, I need to do the drills from pages 38 to 41, but I already accomplished it on Monday. I marked it as with a star if I've finished doing it. So yeah, I can pick and choose which lessons that I want to do on the 2 week spread that I have here, and I just mark it off appropriately on what date did I do which specific lesson. So when I try to look at it zoomed out, you can see my progress, and I'm really happy that this very first 2 week attempt was very successful for me. And I forgot to mention that there is a notes column here, and I just listed out some of the conjugation formulas that I learned when I reviewed back my previous lessons and did some grammar drills. So I really love this spread because this is my most successful one. I didn't study every day. You can see that on June 14 here, I did not study at all. But what made me say that this was successful was because I did everything in this menu throughout the entire 2 weeks. And I like that because I didn't put too much pressure on myself. I just paced myself. You can see that the time here, I took note of it. Like, how long did I spend studying on June 10, June 11? I just used my phone as a stopwatch and just went through a specific section of a grammar book or watched a YouTube channel lesson or listened to a podcast and stuff like that. So I took note of the time that I spent that day. It also gave me some ideas that for a specific lesson, it took me a while to go through the material and stuff like that. So it helps me to have a good understanding of how much time that I took going through the entire menu that I planned for that 2 weeks. So yeah, that was really very successful. And I continued to use this layout or this study plan. And the reason why I liked using the Kokuyo Study Planner is because what I do every Sunday is that I make a menu of what I want to study for the next 2 weeks. The best thing about that is that everything is already mapped out for me. And I just go through the entire 2 weeks looking at this list and then just making sure that I accomplish them. And I love that because there are some days wherein I just don't want to be bothered to think about what do I need to study for the day at the end of the work day. So I just take a look at what did I list out here and just go through it. So it's very easy for me to just sit down and focus on studying instead of thinking about what I need to study and going through the books, going through my notes here in my lessons every weekend and just planning it out on the fly. So this one is a little bit more structured in a sense that it gave me the freedom to just sit down and buckle down on the lessons or in the reviews without having to think about what I need to study. So it's going pretty well, and I continue to use it, and I really like the structure that this study planner is giving me. I have yet to try the other formats like the daily and the weekly that I mentioned, but so far the 2 week study planner is really a good way for me to put some structure into my studying. So to summarize, this study planner was a real game changer for me. I didn't have to think. I could just follow the plan, and that helped me build a daily habit. And even just 20 minutes felt like progress for me because I can see the progress. You know, when you try to take a look at the entire 2 week spread and you see that, oh, every day I did this. I actually read some Italian short stories every day and I accomplished that. And it's so fulfilling to see your progress laid out to you like that. It was a great tool for me to get the habit formed. As I went through the weeks using this planner, there were times that it was also feeling like a little bit rigid. If I skipped a day or I didn't fill a certain section, I felt a little bit guilty, and it made studying feel like a checklist instead of something fun. But, that's not saying that Kokuyo didn't really work for me. This actually is a great tool and it taught me consistency. It helped me form that habit of studying, and that's something that I still carry with me to this day. So if you are looking for a compact, lightweight, structured planner to help you put some order in your otherwise chaotic schedule, or if you just want to carve some time out of your busy schedule, I really recommend this planner. And this has helped me a lot gain a good foundation of a habit, a daily habit of whether active or passive studying. And then I tried the Hobonichi Weeks. So I had an old Weeks I barely used, so I repurposed this as a language planner. And let me just say that it just clicked. So how did I come about using the Hobonichi Weeks? Again, I go back to that video that I did of like my planner plans for next year. And I was toying with the idea of using a Hobonichi Weeks as a language planner. So I thought about, hey, I have an old Weeks that I haven't really used as much because this old thing is a 2023 Tomitaro Makino Weeks that I previously used as a reading journal, but I didn't finish using it or didn't maximize all of the pages, particularly the notes section. There's a lot of empty pages still, and some of the months I did not really use some of the monthly sections because I got this sometime in July. So there are some months here that were blank. So I thought about repurposing this old Weeks to try if this is something that I would like to use for next year as a language planner. And spoiler alert, it really clicked for me. So the layout of the Hobonichi Weeks felt lighter and more flexible. So the weekly gave me a big picture, and the notes pages let me jot down some notes. As you can see here, I did some notes. And if I missed a day, it didn't feel like a failure. I could still see progress across the week and made it easier for me to forgive myself. So anyway, to give you a tour of how I repurposed this old Hobonichi Weeks. So what I did here in the yearly tracker or the yearly overview is that I used this to track like which certain skills in language learning do I need to keep track of every day. So I put some legend here or a key for listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And I mapped out the remaining 4 months of 2025. So whenever I did any drills on related to listening, reading, writing, or speaking, I would mark it here. But as I was going through this key, I realized that I probably would need to change this come October. I would probably change this to grammar, podcast, or like active or passive listening so that I can have like a clear view of which materials did I actually use for that day in that month. Because as you can see here, I'm mostly doing listening and writing. So I need to put a bit more variety so that my learning menu is a little bit more holistic and well-rounded. So I'm still fine-tuning this section, but I love using this to keep track of what stuff did I actually use or learn about during that day. And looking at it from a bird's eye view gives me that confidence that yes, I have developed like that daily habit, whether it's just for listening to a podcast, then I could just, mark it very easily and I could take a look at my entire month, like what did I actually do? So that's how I've been using the yearly section or like the yearly tracker. And in the monthlies, this is kind of like the summary of what I do in the weekly. So maybe we can just go back to this later and go straight to the weekly so that you can take a look at my progress. So when I repurposed the weeks, I of course removed or like redated the dates here. And initially during my first week of repurposing the weekly section, I just listed down, I planned stuff similar to what I did with the Kokuyo Study Planner. I planned the week and then I would underline with a red pen if I accomplished them or if I did said plan. And it worked. I mean, the structure structure that I did with the Kokuyo, I adapted it here and it was working well. But something felt a little bit off for me because I actually did not know what to use the right hand page for. So you can see that I drew some lines. I divided this page into 3 sections, hoping that I could use this for something very specific, like what are some of the words that I learned for that week, any grammar rules to remember for that week, and maybe some fun phrases. I call it fun phrases, but these are basically just, some interesting vulgar words that I love to review when I'm studying a language. But as you can see, the right hand page is not maximized. I didn't do anything, and I felt that something was lacking in this kind of structure. So moving on to the next week, I changed the layout a little bit. So I divided the left hand section into 3 columns, and I was still doing some planning before. As you can see, there are some activities here that do not have a red underline. It means I didn't do them. So I was still doing the pre-planning, and then I was just marking off the ones that I did. But I was pretty much getting the hang of it when it comes to the right hand side. So although it's not as filled up as I really wanted it to be, but I tried varying things up a little bit. So on the second week, I tried to use a phrase bank in this section. I still divided it into 3. I did some dictation exercises, and then on the last section, I didn't do anything. So this second week was a bit of progress, I would say, compared to the first one. But here on the third week, I am feeling a lot more confident about how I utilize the weekly section. So here in the third week, I decided I'm not gonna plan things. I'm not gonna pre-plan. So what I actually did for this week is that on this first column, this would serve as the main language material that I need to study, which is basically anything related to vocabulary or grammar. The second column and the third column are more of for my passive learning. That includes something about using my resources on YouTube, for podcast listening, for reading short stories and conversations, or doing some small exercises based of a YouTube channel episode that I was learning about, or taking dictations and stuff like that. So it's a little bit, there's still some structure, but it's not as rigidly planned as it was here in the Kokuyo and in the first 2 weeks of this planner. And I'm really happy that I found some good use of the right-hand section of this page. I didn't do a 3-line division anymore. I just left it blank, and I just use it mainly for notes for what I was studying during that week. So whatever I was learning in the active learning process, like in grammar and vocabulary, I would take note of some important notes here so that it's easy for me to refer when I look back on the week. And sometimes I would do some really fun things, like I tried to do a little bit of after the fact, or like sticker staking here. And one thing that I was really getting a kick out of is this really cute sticker from, is it Mindwave? Yes, it's Mindwave. That I was having some difficulties or like frustration during that week learning about memorization and like remembering some grammar rules. And I was like, I'm struggling with memorization. And I'm like saying here, sono morto, I'm dead. So it's like very funny whenever I try to look back at this page and see this fun thing that I wrote. So I was trying not to be too rigid with how I use this right hand page, and I find that it's working really well. So I did list down certain words or phrases that I encountered during that week that I want to remember, and I also did some small writing exercises here, same here, and I also did some grammar related studies, and I was using study markers from Kokuyo here, these marks that you're seeing here. And I was really happy. I'm really happy with how this evolved from the very first week to now. So that's how it's been working so far. And when it comes to the notes pages, so this one is kind of like an extension of what I do here at the right-hand section, but it's a little bit more notes, full-blown notes. So I was re-reviewing, or I was like looking back at my previous lessons in my main grammar book, and I was like taking note of some reminders or some grammar rules that I want to remember, because in this old Midori notebook, I do have some notes about grammar and some lessons, but sometimes they're quite difficult to find because I just go through the notes whenever I have lessons and there's like no way for me to find certain information. But with this one, because I use different colored Jetstream pens, and well, I started with Jetstream, but now I'm using Friction because I really need to have the ability to move things around. So I need like a pen that I can erase and I can change whatever information that I need to change. So I used Friction, and I did some color coding, and I did some highlighting, a bit of stickering, and I really like how this looks like. I love the feel of the paper. I love the feel of my handwriting because I do write a little heavy. So whenever I turn the page, I can feel the indentation of my writing on the paper and the sound of the paper, you know, I love that. And whenever I look back into my notes, I'm able to quickly glance at what I've written versus this one that doesn't have any color coordination or color coding. So it's really difficult for me to find information unless I read every line. So that's going to take a bit more time. But here it's easier for me to take a look at a glance. Yeah, so far the evolution of my language learning is still a journey. It's still evolving, but I'm really loving how I'm using the Hobonichi Weeks so far. And maybe I'm being too cocky to say that this is really going so well. It is going well, but I'm still like on 3 weeks using this planner. But I feel like I need to do more to really say that this is going to be a great system for me. But so far, I'm really confident with the initial decision to use a Hobonichi Weeks for next year for language learning. And I'm really happy about what I have been doing so far, my progress in learning Italian. I still have a long way to go. I'm still in A1, and there are still days, oh my gosh, I can't tell you enough that there are days wherein I just feel like I want to give up. But then I always come back because, to be honest, I really love learning Italian. Mainly because my husband is Italian and I really want to communicate with him a lot better. But basically, learning Italian is relatively easy for me compared to learning Mandarin because there's a lot of like similarities with English. There's a lot of connections that you can make with the English language and the Italian. So I am continuously encouraged and motivated to continue at it. These planners are really helping me get to where I want to go. And that's the great thing about it. So to recap, the Midori gave me a safe place to start with my language learning journey. The Kokuyo Study Planner gave me structure and consistency. And the Hobonichi Weeks gave me flexibility and self-compassion and enjoyment in learning the language. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm really enjoying the journey so far. And together, all of these planners help me manage not just my time, but also my mindset. So if you're learning a language or basically anything really, maybe a planner can help you as well. So it doesn't have to be perfect is what I'm saying. It's about finding a system that supports you even on tough days, because believe me, tough days, the norm, it's always going to be there, and you really need a support system in the form of planners to keep you motivated and encouraged with the journey that you're going through. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope that this video has helped you in a way if you are thinking about exploring language learning, or if you want to learn something new for next year. I hope that in some way this video is was of interest and of use to you. Please let me know in the comments if you've used the planner for studying, whether languages or anything else. I would really love to hear about your experience, and maybe you can share some of your tips as well. So I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video.